Hello. Welcome to the party. Welcome to Los Angeles, California. I know our last episode was all about welcome to Los Angeles, but now we're really in it. Michigan goes to Disney. We got to talk to a bunch of different people. We're going to discuss what's happened thus far in the Rose Bowl prep. On this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hull, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Yesterday ended up being a little bit of a whirlwind. So today, the hope is, I'm not sure, but the hope is we're going to double up. We'll have Clayton Safey joining us for another episode, either later today, early tomorrow. We're going to try to, we're trying to figure everything out because, right, it's already busy. We went to the Disneyland event. That was really cool. It was a cavalcade down Main Street, and you had Jim Harbaugh, Nick Saban, all of these different players talking to the media afterwards. A bunch of the players got to partake in just walking around Disneyland and all of that. Unfortunately, we were not allowed to stay. And if anyone is a regular watcher or listener of this program, then you know just how disappointing that is for me. But nonetheless, it ended up kind of not mattering because we had so much work to do once we got back, because we got so much good stuff from Jim Harbaugh, from Nick Saban, from some of these players. I want to discuss some of those things. Today we also had Michigan defense, Alabama offense. I wasn't at the Alabama offense. I figured I'd read transcripts down the road. So we'll talk about what things that they had to say on the next episode. But we really wanted to hone in on the Michigan defense. There's an early enrollee who's really stepped out and above all else in practice thus far. And it's exactly who you hope it is. So we'll touch on that as well. So first and foremost, I mean, I could describe the Disneyland event, or I can show you if you're watching. Listening, not going to really make much of a difference. So unfortunately, will not be included in this. But actually, I'm probably not going to include it in either, just to be honest. But it was just Jim Harbaugh on a carriage. You know, how cool is that? You know, to be in an iconic location, and Michigan football is there. It doesn't really get any better than that, right? So that was good, but obviously the stuff that came out in the aftermath when we were at the press conference, Jim Harbaugh still not really discussing anything about the future as it pertains to everything at the moment. I'm still like, could Jim Harbaugh leave? Yes, I'd say it's probably 50-50. I still just don't think it means anything that he hasn't signed his contract. So, that's a question that needed to be asked. I know people get really mad at Angelique for asking that type of questions. If she didn't ask it, someone else was going to. It is part of our jobs to ask those types of questions, okay? So, nonetheless, I think it's kind of much ado about nothing. I think he's just the type that, I mean, it happens kind of every year. And I talked to Angelique about it, and she had the same thought. You know, it happens every year. It's like, okay, you know, he says he's not talking about it or whatever, put it off or whatever. More concerned with the whole, whatever is resting on the season. Right now, it's obviously the bowl game. And then once all that's done, then he kind of pays attention. The one-track mind thing, I think, is very real, okay? And yes, I do think it would have been done if it wasn't for all of the NCAA stuff that happened surrounding the Connor Stallions of it all. So it is what it is, all right? So it's not. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Other than that, he said the one thing that I think kind of scared a lot of people. I wouldn't read too much into that either. He said basically anything could happen in this Alabama game. He says they're a good team. We're a good team too. You know, if we're not careful, they could rout us. We could also rout them. I know there's some people hanging on the they could rout us part. He's just being honest, right? Any of the four scenarios, you know, close win, close loss, blowout win, blowout loss, or whatever. All that is on the table in a game like this, especially with a team like Alabama. It's all about preparation. It's all about heart. And I'm actually taking right from the Jalen Milroe playbook here, which happens to be the exact same as the Michigan playbook. Because when I talked to Jalen Milroe at the Disneyland event, he sounded awfully a lot like a Michigan player the way he talked, right? He's talking about, oh, it's all about the details. It's all about our preparation. We have a one-track mind. It was like, okay, you're sitting here, like, who is your actual coach? I understand it's philosophically probably not terribly different, but that was a little bit surprising to kind of hear Michigan propaganda, essentially, coming from the Alabama players. But he is on high alert for the Michigan defense. Talked about they've got a really good box. The run fits are really good. They're really physical, explosive up front. But with the coverages, it was kind of funny. At first I took it the wrong way, because at first he says, listen, I play in the SEC. It's the hardest conference in the country. And in my head, I'm like, okay, here we go. And I kind of didn't hear anything he said after that. And then when I went back and watched it again after I got back to the media headquarters here, I was like, oh, actually, he's giving Michigan props, because he's like, while SEC teams give us a lot of different coverages, Michigan's kind of a different animal altogether. So I am curious to see just what Jesse Minter throws at them and what it's going to look like. It's just funny, like, hearing both of these teams talk about game plan. I mean, the game still feels so far away, but we are only mere days away. So it's going to be exciting to just kind of see what they end up doing in that game. Nick Saban, I got a question in for Nick Saban. I got to tell you, it's kind of odd to me, because even though, we talk to Jim Harbaugh literally every single week, and he's one of the tent poles in all of college football. That doesn't faze me at all at this point. Yes, sure, it did in 2015, 2016, maybe even 2017. But now it's just what life is. So it's a different deal, though, getting to talk to Nick Saban, who, by the way, speaks extremely quietly. It was very jarring because I could not hear a word he said. But I got to ask him, I said, how much different or similar is this Michigan team from the one you faced in 2019? Now, we know the answer, but I want his answer, right? It's coming from me or coming from you. It's a little bit different than coming from the guy who's won the most national championships in the modern era of college football. And while he said, yeah, offensively there's some similarities, but, it's mostly pro style, but they're just a heck of a lot better. And he's like, man, they've just got much better personnel. They were just still kind of trying to grow what they were trying to do. But defensively, obviously, schematically, it's changed. But there's just so many changes to the team from the personnel standpoint and their ability to be fast and physical. And he's like, we're going to have to play really good in order to beat Michigan. I know that's not how fans are going to look at it, right? Fans aren't going to look at it that way. Fans are going to, Alabama's not no good. Alabama's great. It depends on what side you're on. But nonetheless, I think it is going to be a very interesting game coming up on Monday. All right, we are going to continue on, and we are going to continue discussing all that has happened here in Los Angeles thus far, what's going to be coming up, all of that stuff, and kind of all of what we have learned. But before we do that, you have to wait for the Wi-Fi because it's taking its sweet time here outside. Listen, there are so many times that I have tried to get tickets last minute, particularly to sporting events. Detroit Tigers ALCS in 2006. I always want to say 2016. It was 2006. It was a long time ago. Pistons Eastern Conference Finals in 2004. All these times, and I end up sweating it. I end up like, am I actually going to be able to go and pick them up? Am I actually going to get them? You don't have to worry about any of that with Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, comedy, and music that you want in all the events that are near you. It goes well beyond that. Theater, concerts, all of that. Gametime has also got last-minute killer deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Gametime takes the absolute guesswork out of buying tickets. So if you're looking for Rose Bowl tickets, national championship game tickets maybe down the line, however you want to go about it, Gametime has got you covered. So there are so many great things like seeing the view from your seat before you buy them, so you know exactly what you're going to be looking at. You're not going to necessarily have a big pole right in front of your face. All-in prices, so your total is up front. You know what you're getting. You're getting that great deal. It's not like when I booked an Airbnb for Sarah and I in Orlando. where it's like, oh, it's this much, and then what are these extra fees? Didn't know. Don't have to even worry about any of that with Gametime. You buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. So take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. That is Gametime. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Standard operating fare here with the Road podcast. I have no idea how much time we are or are not taking. If this episode ends up being 14 minutes, I'm very sorry. Or if it ends up being 40, I'm hoping that we don't get to that. I think we're staying on time because the clock is all the way on a camera that's about 7 feet away from me at the moment. And yes, if you're watching, I am all blinged out in the sense of I am all wearing full white. Why? Reasons? I don't know. I expect a lot of you to make fun of me, and guess what? I don't read the comments, so go ahead and do your worst. So, like I said, today we had we had the Michigan defensive unit. We had Jesse Minter and 5 players. Among them were Mike Barrett, Junior Colson. Let's see, who else did we have? Mason Graham, Rod Moore, and I'm missing someone, but I'm pretty sure. Maybe it was just those guys. Nonetheless, it was a pretty good event, and I think the thing that stood out to me was when I talked to Mike Barrett and Junior Colson, because I asked Mike Barrett, hey, you've got these early enrollees. I understand you've just had one practice thus far here in Los Angeles at that time, but what do what stands out to you? Who stands out to you? What is it that we are seeing there? And he wasted no time. It wasn't like, oh, well, everyone's playing really good. That's the type of thing that we normally get, right? Normally you get this, oh, everyone's doing well. We've heard that for the last couple of years. It used to be like a real big thing of this guy's actually really coming up strong, right? That's what we would hear about the Ronnie Bells of the world, the Chris Evanses of the world. But now we don't necessarily get that because we tend to get a lot of everybody's doing very good. And that's great to write about, The whole team is just absolutely amazing. But he actually gave me an answer. He gave me one name. And the player he said that it stands above all else as far as what he's seen, just from one practice, that's an early enrollee. And I know I'm stretching out the time. Jaden Davis, former 5-star quarterback that ends up being a 4-star. So that is exciting. That's what you want to hear, right? When you have your quarterback enrolling early and he's able to go out there on day one, he's going out there and, as Mike Barrett said, confidently making throws, not afraid to make the mistakes. And that's actually like an important thing, right? Like, yeah, you don't want to make mistakes, but he was going out there and he said the ball placement was excellent. And it's kind of like, he didn't really quite say this, but it was kind of what he was intimating. It's like you wouldn't really know that he was just having like his first practice with Michigan because he knew the playbook. It seemed to have a good mastery of what the offense was, placing the ball well, and just kind of had a little bit of a moxie. That's kind of what the whole point of like not afraid to make mistakes. He's not Joe Bluthing it, right? But it really does seem like he went out and kind of balled out in the first practice here in California. So that is exactly the type of name that you want to hear right now. Yeah, there's others that you would like to see. Michigan obviously needs some receivers, and you'd love to see some of those guys really take a big step forward. But they got Channing Goodwin there. Amarian Stewart is not yet, and I got that right finally. But you'd love to see them take a step forward. But unfortunately, Jordan Marshall, not an early enrollee. He'd be one that I'd really want to hear about and see when we finally get to go to practice tomorrow. But since that's not the case as of yet, I think that having your quarterback take that step forward this early is obviously exactly what you want. Obviously, there is the caveat. You don't want to see too much of him in bowl prep because you need to be able to get your guys actually going for the actual game that's coming up. But, I mean, they said Jaden ran with the 1s and the 2s at times. And to answer the questions, I think technically he could play in the game, but he's obviously not going to play in the game. They're not going to throw him out there against Alabama after less than a week of practice, less than a week of being with the team. I do believe technically he could, but then the clock starts ticking. He would lose a year immediately. This would be like a red shirt, I think. I don't know exactly how it works. We got the answer to that some time ago. But nonetheless, that was the name that I got from both. Junior Colson also was really impressed with what Jaden Davis did. But he added Jeremiah Beasley and said what he really likes about Jeremiah Beasley, linebacker, is that he's out there asking questions. He's figuring it out. And he said he's just kind of participating in the exact way that you want a young player to participate. And with the curiosity, kind of just coming to understand what is going around him. He said just didn't really feel like he's fresh out of high school. So good stuff. Starting to get some early enrollees, getting them going. I can't wait to see them tomorrow. That's usually at these things what now that they do come and do poll prep, what I am always looking forward to. But speaking of early enrollees, one of them from last year who was making a bit of an impression in practice and made an early impression in spring ball earlier this year is going to be leaving the team, and that's defensive back Cam Calhoun. Entered the transfer portal along with my guy Joey Velasquez, who has been around since 2019. Obviously hasn't taken that step forward. So happy trails to them. I will particularly miss Joey. So fun fact about Joey, I think I've mentioned this a long time ago, but I would, back when I was living in Ann Arbor, I would go to the LA Fitness. And when I would go there, almost every time, didn't matter what time of day, it always seemed like Joey Velasquez was there working out. Sometimes it was with a walk-on. Sometimes it was with Eric All. And every time I'd ask him, like, dude, why are you working out here? Don't you go to Shem? I mean, you've got Shem Beckler Hall. You've got all that. And he's like, oh, yeah, I already was there. It's like they kick him out of Shem because, like, okay, you're working out so hard. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to another gym. So when I talked to Jim Harbaugh not off the record, but not at a setting where we were, in a media, there was a media setting, but it wasn't like a podium session, but it was a Big Ten Media Days in 2021. He was standing around and I had to talk to someone who was near him and then Harbaugh and I started talking and I told him like, hey, I see Joey Velasquez at LA Fitness constantly. And at that time he was like, I think he's going to be really good. I think he might end up like, getting in and playing quite a bit. Now, obviously we saw him more on special teams. But we didn't really see him crack that linebacker rotation. And it's becoming increasingly more difficult to crack, which I think is interesting and obviously a very positive development for Michigan. So Cam Calhoun, he'll always live in the hearts of Michigan fans considering the timing of his commitment, committed to Michigan moments after beating Ohio State in Columbus in 2022. And unfortunately, who knows what the reason why he has decided to move on, but he has decided to move on, and it is disappointing just kind of given all of the possibilities, because you're going to lose Josh Wallace, you're going to lose Mikey Sainers still. Obviously, there's other guys that are coming in and out and all of that, and just doesn't seem like it seems like there's an open door to the future, I should say, at the cornerback position, so that's disappointing. All right, so up next, we're going to talk about what's happening from here. By the time most of you watch or listen to it, that will probably either be happening in the moment or will have already happened, but we're just going to kind of let you know, keep you understanding what's happening out here in the Los Angeles. Yes, I called it the Los Angeles. And then we'll also talk about Michigan adding from the transfer portal. And we are going to do that in just a moment. But before we do that, listen, it's NFL time still. You got NFL coming up in tonight, 2 days, 3 days. It's just going to be dominating everything as it tends to. And as the weather gets colder and NFL offers will continue to stay hot on FanDuel, right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. They've got all kinds of action you can get in on, actually, from overs, unders, player props, money lines, all of that stuff, spreads. everything under the sun. You get paid instantly. That's the most amazing part. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We are still here live at Sheridan Grand, up here on the this deck that they have. It's pretty comfortable, pretty amazing, in downtown Los Angeles. And again, apologies, no podcast yesterday. By the time that I got done writing, I was like, okay, time to do a podcast. I was like, oh no, it's actually time for bed. So that's just kind of how yesterday went, just kind of being whisked around, whisked away. Got busy in a hurry, unfortunately. So that's that. But we're gonna. That's always the kind of the biggest thing when you come to these bowl games, is trying to find your spot. Where can I inch in and sit down and spare a half hour to share with you. But that's why we're gonna. If not today, tomorrow, next day, I don't know. We'll double up one of these days to try to make up for it. If not more, want to try to get you all involved and feel what it's like to be here in the Los Angeles. Now, to me, this is not Los Angeles. It's kind of funny. So we're downtown LA, which, as I said the other day, if you didn't know before, I lived here for 4 years, from 2008 through 2012. But and I did my internship out here in 2006. I almost said 2006 again. And my family down in Orange County, which is down where Disneyland is, and now they're in most of them are in San Diego. But it's just, this is not Los Angeles to me, and it's weird to me being in what's like a city, like an actual city, like a big tall. Like, I'm looking at this parking garage on the other side here, and it's still like I'm on the third floor, and then it's got another 5-6 floors above me here, and everywhere you look, there's just skyscrapers. To me, that's not Los Angeles, right? Like, LA is more of the West, right? Anything north of not anything north of the 10, but anything west of the 405, most things north of the 10, south of the San Fernando Valley, but that's part of LA in a way. I don't know. So before any of you Valleyites get mad at me, I'm sorry. I'm a LA snob from my time here. But nonetheless, so Michigan did get a transfer portal commitment in Josh Preeb. He is from, I can't remember the name of the town, a small town near Niles, Michigan, and southwest of the state. He was a starter for 3 years at Northwestern out of his 4 years there, so he'll come aboard as a grad transfer, as a guard. So you've got at least one of your replacements there. Obviously, you would expect Gio El Hadi to be the other one. So if you at least have your two guards, and then what happens with some of the other positions, it is unclear. Does Miles Hinton stick around for another year? I don't know if Ladarius Henderson. I don't remember if he has the eligibility to do so. I believe Drake Nugent does not. So there are certain positions still there. He graded out okay. He had some really, really good games last year, but also was kind of more in the low 60s, but is a guy who was an all Big Ten selection. So in this last year, so Michigan adds him to the fold, and obviously you kind of trust Michigan's evaluations with the offensive line. They have been very good at all of that. So that is exciting to recognize that they're still bringing in some people. So now you got two. Michigan's being snipers when it comes to the transfer portal. So Jaysean Barham, I am very excited about Michigan bringing him in. I mean, just to have that big-bodied, fast, a guy who has kind of punished Michigan while playing against them, similar to Ernest Hausman last year. It is really exciting to think that he's going to be a Wolverine next year and what that's going to look like. So that's all of that at the moment. So tonight it's the Lowry's Beef Bowl. It's the Michigan side of things. They split it up into 2 nights with 2 different teams. Tonight is Michigan. I don't really know what to expect. I haven't really watched much about what the Lowry Beef Bowl is. Now, if you don't know what it is they get to go to Lowry's, which is known for its prime rib, and they'll do the salad spinner. They'll cut off prime rib. They'll kind of do an all-you-can-eat type of thing, and I think it's kind of also partially a contest who can eat the most. Seems like a kind of a weird strategy to have, going into a college football playoff bowl game, but it is a long-standing tradition with the Rose Bowl. I believe the longest tradition that exists with any major bowl game. So very excited to see what that's like, and I'm excited to try it, assuming that they're serving us prime rib. We said that we get a traditional Lowry's dinner, which has to be prime rib. I don't believe I have ever had prime rib in my life. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't believe I have. So I am eager to partake in that. So that is the event tonight, and otherwise they really are kind of we're tamping down the events. They had Disneyland, now they've got this. Some of these other bowl games, the Orange Bowl in 2016, it just felt like it was like thing after thing after thing, but even then they didn't go and do a lot of the stuff that they were supposed to do. But they went to Fogo de Chao, and they were supposed to have their beach day. They actually had their beach day in 2021 there. It just felt like every day there was something. The Peach Bowl, I think, was the best because they had the College Football Hall of Fame. They went to the Martin Luther King Church, Ebenezer Church in Atlanta. They went go-kart racing, which also had an arcade. Kind of similar with the not the Orange Bowl, the Citrus Bowl. Last time they played Alabama, there were, they did 2 amusement park days, and Fun Spot USA with kids, and did the Universal Day to start things out. Not a lot of that this time. Yeah, they had Disneyland. They got to have their day with that. They get to eat today. I don't know that there's if there's any other like crazy events, they haven't shared it with us. So, which is kind of good. You want to focus on football, but at the same time have fun. That's one of the things that Blake Corum said yesterday. Is one of the big differences with this team from the others he's been a part of is this is all about fun, and that is the most important thing. Is that they go out and they play football that is fun. So. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today, at least right now. Maybe we'll do another one. I know I always talk a big game. It doesn't always happen. We're going to try to fit it in. I don't have anything after Lowry's Beat Bowl. Still have some writing to do, but that's all that is. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.